Welcome to meeting number 15 of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Procedure and House Affairs. Pursuant to the order of reference of Tuesday, April 11th, the committee is meeting to discuss the parliamentary duties in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic. Before we start, I want to inform the members that pursuant to this order of reference, the committee is meeting for two reasons: for the purpose of undertaking a study and receiving evidence concerning matters related to the conduct of parliamentary duties in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic, and two, to prepare and present a report to the House of Commons by May 15th on that said study. The order of reference also stipulates that only motions needed to determine witnesses or motions related to the adoption of the report are in order. Today's meeting is taking place by video conference, and the proceedings will be made available via the House of Commons website. So you are aware, the webcast will always show the person speaking rather than the entirety of the committee. In order to facilitate the work of our interpreters and ensure an orderly meeting, I would like to outline a few rules to follow. One, interpretation in the video conference will work very much like in a regular committee meeting. You have the choice at the bottom of your screen of either well, I guess since we've had some issues with this, you really only have the choice of either English or French. So alternate your choice depending on the language you wish to speak. And if you alternate the language you wish to speak in the middle of your statement, then please also change the channel at the bottom for the best results of interpretation. Before speaking, please wait until I recognize you by name. When you are ready to speak, you can click on the microphone icon to activate your mic. A reminder that all comments by members should be addressed through the chair. Should the members need to request the floor outside of their designated time for questions, this doesn't really apply this time since we don't have any witnesses. So please just, I think for this meeting, we should just raise our hands. I'll try to follow the side panel of raised hands and whenever there's an issue as we go through the report. When speaking, please speak slowly and clearly, and also if there's a point of order to be made, once again, just unmute your mic, state that you have a point of order, and then if anyone wants to respond to that point of order, use the raised hand function under the participants toolbar. And when you're not speaking, make sure that your mic is on mute. This will be especially important today as well, since we're all going to probably want to make comments on the report. Should any technical challenges arise, for example, in relation to your interpretation or a problem with your audio arises, please advise me immediately, and the technical team will help resolve the problem, and we may need to suspend during that time. So it will be a short suspension, but please let me know so that everyone can participate fully. Before we get started, I'd like everyone to click on the screen at the top right-hand corner to ensure that you are on gallery view so that you're able to see each other. A few reminders: all comments should be addressed through the chair. When speaking, please speak slowly and clearly. When you're not speaking, please keep your mic on mute, and the use of headset is strongly encouraged. Welcome, Mr. Richards. I'm glad that you were able to solve your technical difficulty and join us. We just are getting started. We will turn our attention now to the consideration of our draft report. Usually we do this work in camera. However, the authority granted to PROC by the House on April 11th requires all committees meeting virtually to be webcast to the public on ParlView. To remind members, we have two meetings, today's and on May 12th, to consider this report and to adopt it. If we are to meet the deadline of May 15th, which the House gave us, the draft report covers all meetings up until our April 30th meeting. So I'm in your hands, and how you want to consider the report and how you want to go about it is really up to this committee. So I was wondering if first we could get agreement as to, since you've probably seen had a chance to read through the report. I mean, we have 3 hours in today's meeting as well, so we can go as slow as you want in order to go through the report together. We can go line by line, or we can go paragraph by paragraph or section by section. So I was just wondering if anybody has any suggestions as to how we go through it. Yes, Mr. Richard.
I guess, well, it doesn't have to be a point of order, but a question or maybe you addressed this. I don't know. Obviously with my challenges I was having here, I missed the beginning. My understanding is we are in public. I do understand that despite some of what we were told during the hearings here, that there are challenges with being able to have in-camera proceedings on this. However, usually when we consider a draft report, we are in camera, and there is, I think, good reason why that's the case. Yet that's not possible. So where are we at with that? And I do have some concerns about that. I do think that it's usually that's how we do these things, and we're not able to do that. I guess it points out one of the challenges that there is with this, and something we probably need to address in our report. But having said that, we're also going to be talking about a report in public as well. So I don't know if you've addressed that already or not, Madam Chair, but that is a concern I know I would have. I don't know if others feel the same, but.
I only merely stated in my introductory remarks so far that pursuant to the order of reference on May 11th, this committee was required to hold all of its meetings and make them publicly available via webcast on ParlView. So this committee, along with all the committee meetings that we've had with witnesses, will be publicly available.
Okay, so the House has actually directed the committee to do our report in public as well?
Correct.
Okay, I'm not sure. Does anyone know the rationale for that? Because that is not a typical thing in committees. So I'm just curious.
No, no, it's not. And as far as I know, I think the rationale, or at least maybe a piece of the rationale, I can't completely know what the entire thought process behind this was, is that there may not be a way of ensuring that we are completely 100% in camera. Usually when we are present in the room, you can you can ensure by maybe looking around in the room. Of course, even, at that point, somebody could have their phone on or whatnot. So perhaps we can't 100% ever ensure, but for the most part, it is easier to the blind eye to ensure. And here it's not. So they've made it so that all committee meetings just be publicly available and none of them be in camera at this point until they figure out the technology. This was also April 11th, right? So sure. We've also studied this issue, and perhaps we have recommendations that we can make in this report that may address this going forward for committees and how they can have in-camera meetings.
I guess that's what I was going to suggest next, is that given that probably, and I actually, unfortunately, we did receive it later yesterday. I haven't had a chance to go through the report. I did skim through it. I saw parts of it. So maybe it's addressed in there already that I didn't see it, but if it's not, we certainly should be addressing that in our report, that, because obviously there are times where in-camera proceedings are needed. We almost ran into one of them during our last meeting, in fact. How does that get addressed? Obviously, that's a significant concern that we need to address in our report. So I would suggest, unless there's disagreement on it, that we would instruct our analyst to prepare a section of the report. It doesn't have to be a long section, but that it does address that and the concerns that exist about that. I mean, that's an obvious, and it probably even needs a recommendation of some kind. But that would be, to me, one obvious thing that we would want to try to address.
Yeah. Any comments from other committee members on that suggestion? Just general comments before we actually get into the report, paragraph by paragraph.
I have a comment, Madam Chair, mm-hmm. And it's a question more than a comment. And has this report been put out public? This draft report, has it been published publicly?
No, as far as I know, this report, and even in the email the clerk had sent us,
it was confidential.
It was stated that the report was confidentially sent to us, but now at this point, when we are going through it, whether we go through it line by line and I read it out, or whether we're just discussing in general the paragraphs, some part of it will become public as this meeting proceeds, and then eventually at the end of it, the whole report and in its drafted version or edited version will become public.
Right. So, Madam Chair, herein lies the problem: is that we've received what is a confidential draft report at this point. Now we're being asked to discuss it publicly, and if I decide or the committee decides that we want to go line by line on this, then it will be out in the public realm. And typically, when we have these type of committee meetings, there is a significant amount of back and forth that goes on in discussion and rationale and people putting their positions forward. And all of that will be in the public realm, because there may be some things with a certain individual, for example, that's named in the report that I don't agree with. And that individual will understand my rationale for not agreeing with them. So I think if the committee wants to move forward with this, and I'm not trying to be difficult, I'm just trying to, have some sense of normalcy here in how we deal with these reports. And if it's the will of the committee, notwithstanding, and I think this is where we need to clarify, notwithstanding what the initial motion that was approved on April 11th says, can we as a committee decide to take this off of Parleview, take it off the public realm, given the fact that the report's not even public, and discuss this within this framework of Zoom that we're dealing with? I'm really curious as to what the answer is on that from the clerk. Because there may be, as I said, information that, proprietary stuff dealing with Zoom, for example. I mean, any one of us might have a problem with what we heard from Zoom, and now we're out there publicly discussing that. Not that I have a problem with Zoom, but there may be something in the report that I don't agree with them on, or something proprietary that I have concerns with. And now we're exposing that company publicly to the concerns that any one of us may have with them, whether it's security, whether it's privacy, and all of that stuff. So I think we need to pause on this for a second, given those issues.
Point of order, Madam Chair, or maybe this is a point of order, and I'd like to add to it. I'm not certain, but
okay, go ahead, and then I can address both comments.
Sure. I would take. I certainly agree with everything Mr. Broussard just had to say. I would take it a step further, and I would suggest that we are, when we receive a draft copy of a report that is confidential in nature, we're bound to keep that confidential. We're not supposed to share it with anyone. And I think that what we are being asked to do as members of Parliament here is to actually break that expected confidentiality by speaking publicly on this format. I'm actually quite uncomfortable. The more I think about this, I'm actually quite uncomfortable with that.
So this is not the first time.
Madam Chair, if I can finish, I think we need to be seeking advice on this as members of Parliament. So we're not putting ourselves in a position where we have done something inappropriate. I'm not sure if our clerk can respond to that, or if we need to seek outside advice on that. But I'm not. To be frank, I'm actually, now that more I think about this, I'm actually uncomfortable even participating in this meeting until we have some clarity on that.
I would like to add to this point of order too, Madam Chair, at some point.
Okay, if I'll just respond quickly, and then I'll give the floor to you, Mr. Gerritsen. I have discussed this with the clerk. I will also just take a brief pause to get even more clarification from the clerk. But this is not the first time a draft report has been discussed in public. We are by no means the first to do this, and I'm not talking just within the COVID-19 context. I will get more examples from the clerk as to why and when that was done in the past, if he's able to provide that. But this is, yes, Ms. Richards.
If I can on that, and I don't disagree. In fact, I'm fairly certain I probably have participated in committees where that has been done. My assumption is, though, like we do have a copy of a report that is marked confidential, And I know when we were given a report of that nature that I've always taken that incredibly seriously. You know, that was supported and marked. You know, for us to discuss it in public, you know, again, I'm not sure I'm comfortable with that. You know, I guess I'll wait the advice that we get, but I feel like I may be being put in a position where I'm being asked to do something that I'm not comfortable enough to do. Therefore, you know, I may not be able to participate in a meeting, and therefore, I would almost feel like then my privileges might be breached because I'm now being told I can't participate in a meeting that others are going to participate in because their choice.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Sorry, we are in the middle of a point of order right now, and I'm.
Well, no, it's a back and forth between you and the chair right now.
Well, it's part of a point of order, though. So if you can let me finish. So I'm just like, I mean, I wait the advice, but
Okay.
I want to point out that I do think that we need to take this quite seriously. I mean, we've got a copy of a report that's more confidential, and I don't know that putting MPs in a position where we're not certain that we're doing something appropriate is it's dangerous, I think. So I just want to point that out. So I get your point that we, you know, this has happened before, but we're talking about a report here that is marked as confidential.
The second thing I'd like to point out is that, like I've stated before, this is an order by the House that all our meetings be publicly broadcasted. So that's the other thing to note. But I will, if you give me a moment, try to address some of your the best I can really at this point. I mean, I think including the draft report, and so this brings us to today's date where we are now looking and going through the draft report so that we're able to adopt it. I understand your concerns, and I'll try to get some more advice on that as well.
Madame la Présidente, si vous me permettez peut-être juste une question.
If you would allow me, Madam Chair, I would like to ask just one question before you ask the clerks for advice.
Second, I have a speaking list now on this point of order. So I've got, you know,
audio
maybe
issue.
Everybody. Oh, yes, there is an audio issue as well. But I have a speaking order now at this point. I believe the first one to get. Now, Mr. Gerritsen, you did raise your hand as well. You're bottom of the hand raised list. So I don't know if Ms. Normandy perhaps raised her hand first and I should go according to that list or, yeah. Okay, so we have a list and it's Madame Normandin, then Ms. Blaney, then Mr. Richards again, and then Mr. Gerritsen. So if you can give me just a moment and then I will proceed with that list.
Sorry, am I supposed to be going? Oh.
She's talking to the clerk, I think, right now, just getting some advice. Now I know what the interpreters go through and they have audio shock. We survived our first ones. Is everybody okay?
Madam Chair, I'm I'm dealing with a constituency issue right now, so I'm going to have to just leave for a bit, okay? So I'll be back. I'm dealing with an emergency situation back in my riding.
That's up to you, but we'll be continuing. Okay, so I believe let's hear from the clerk has just established once again some of the points that I have already mentioned. Really, that we're not the first to be doing this. Doing this in public. This part is not what the clerk has said, but what I am about to suggest is it increases transparency, yes, and there's no rules against us doing this in public, and that's why it has been done in public before. It is an adopted norm, I guess, but in this case, we really have no choice because we have been ordered by the order in reference adopted by the House that I'll state that it requires all committees meeting virtually to be webcast to the public on Parleview. So it's quite clear that we must be in public. The report, yes, I agree, it's a confidential report, draft report, and so it's not to be circulated so that someone can print it and then further circulate it around. But I think discussing the report, of course, will reveal certain aspects of the report, but it's still not the same as publishing the report before it's edited and is in its final version. So that's all I can say for now. We'll carry on with the list that we have, and if you'd like to get on that list, then please just raise your hand in the participants toolbar, and I can hear from you. Yes.
Is the list related to the point of order? Because
yes.
That's what I want. Okay.
Yes, the list is related to the point of order. Okay, Madame Normandin.
Merci. Il y a quelques points qui ont...
There are a few points that have already been raised by my colleagues, but I have a question. Do I understand that even though the committee could decide to proceed in camera, that would be impossible due to the order emanating from the House? Is that what I should understand? Thank you.
I think I put myself on mute. Correct. That is correct. Next, we have Ms. Blaney, please.
So I think this is an important conversation, and I'm a little concerned as well, and I just want to share that. I guess my question is around, at the beginning of our committee, we did have a phone meeting where we discussed witnesses, and I'm just wondering if that was in camera.
No, it was not. And I'll confirm that meeting was also webcasted, but only audio was heard. Is that correct?
Hi, Madam Chair. Yeah, it was public,
yeah.
Just like all the meetings are required.
Yeah, they were all public. Ms. Blaney, I just got confirmation again that what I said is thankfully correct, that it was a public meeting and the audio was recorded in that one. Next up, we have Mr. Richards.
Thank you. So I guess I won't belabor this, but there are still two things that kind of remain a concern or certainly a doubt in my mind. I understand what you've indicated and the advice that you've received, Madam Chair. However, I mean, I do still note that we do have a copy of a report sitting, like I'm assuming you all have it in front of us. I have it in front of me. Does clearly say confidential on it. And as a member of Parliament, it's always been drilled into me, and it's something I've taken very seriously, that when I have a copy of a report that's confidential, that I'm not to share that with anyone or reveal any of the contents of it. And it's something that I can say with all certainty that I have never revealed a thing from a confidential report to anyone. And even in cases where I know where we've had draft reports like this that are marked confidential, we've actually, as a committee, had discussions about can we talk to our caucuses about them, because they've had significant potential impacts on caucus, and we've had to make those kinds of decisions. And then I guess that then takes some of the confidentiality away, but we make that decision. And maybe that's something we can do as a committee. I don't know, but I'm still left with I feel like we haven't squared that circle yet. in terms of the fact that the report does say confidential. I get we've been asked by the House to do something, but there's contradictions here, and we haven't. I think we need to completely address those so that we can all feel comfortable participating in these conversations, that we're not doing something inappropriate. So that's the first point. And to be fair, I mean, you mentioned that we'll be disclosing certain aspects of it. I would argue that there's potential we basically disclosed the entire report, depending on how we go about it and how much discussion there is on certain parts. So it is an insignificant thing. We do have to figure out how we reconcile those things. The second thing is that and it was raised, I think briefly, I think it was by Mr. Broussard. But the idea of he didn't raise it as the idea of privilege, but I would say it goes that far. He mentioned, what if I was to mention something proprietary about Zoom? I think was his example. There are other potential examples, and there are we're all covered by parliamentary privilege in committee meetings. That's my understanding. However, it was not made clear to us during the hearings when questions were asked of certain individuals. I don't know that we had a clear answer to be completely confident that we are in fact covered in this forum over a video conference platform. And I think that would leave some concerns in people's minds, especially when we're talking about potentially revealing the contents of a confidential report publicly. And people may have some concerns that someone could say is, if someone was to have concerns about Zoom, for example, or maybe indicate that they felt that there was dishonest testimony by a witness, or whatever the case might be. And I'm not saying any of those things have happened or will happen, but what if they were, and then someone felt they were covered by privilege and they're not? So I guess I'm just a little bit concerned still about the situation. I'd like to see how we can square those circles. I'm not wanting to prevent this from occurring, but I also don't want to put anyone in a bad spot or get anyone into hot water here, and including myself, obviously. And I feel like I'm not confident yet that we're in that position. So I'll look forward to hearing some of the thoughts of others, but I'm still not sure I'm comfortable here.
Okay, Mr. Garrettson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the House of Commons tasked us with the responsibility of doing something, and it was a motion that was unanimously supported, including by the Conservative Party, to have meetings set out in a certain manner, in this case to be public, and to address the report in a public fashion and report back. I think that this notion of parliamentary privilege being breached is a gigantic red herring. To suggest that your parliamentary privilege is breached because you choose not to be part of a meeting because you're concerned over it is not. That's the same thing as saying that internet access throughout Canada is a parliamentary privilege issue. It is not. It is, your parliamentary privilege is when somebody intentionally tries to impugn your ability to do your job. If you choose not to do your job, the job that the House of Commons has appointed us as a committee to do, then that's a choice that you made. And it's certainly not impugning upon anybody's parliamentary privilege. We've been tasked with the responsibility of doing something in a certain manner, which we've set out to do, and has been done exactly as indicated to this point. So my suggestion would be that we get on with this and that we deal with the actual report, because that's what we've been asked to do. And that's what we've been asked by every party that's represented in this meeting here, has been asked to do that by the MPs in their party that unanimously voted in favor of this. So I would encourage us to get on with the actual work that we have to do.
Madam Chair, you're on mute.
Sorry, thank you. Technical difficulties, and we just need a brief suspension due to that. Okay, we're back, going to unsuspend. If I can also remind all of the members as we re-begin to wear your headsets when you intend on speaking, or if you have some kind of mic or device or headphone set that will allow your voice to be of better quality, please wear that for the interpreters. Mr. Richards, if you have your headset, if you could please wear your headset.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've forgotten it today, so I don't.
Okay. Do you have anything that might help improve the quality of your sound? Okay. Anyways, we're going to have the clerk address some of these things, but before he does, I did want to raise. I just wanted to. I guess put in my 2 cents about the privilege issue. Not really my 2 cents, but what we've heard before this committee from our legal experts and law clerks is that privilege extends to committees no matter where they are. If they're traveling committees, privilege would extend to a traveling committee as well. So it's not because of the member's location. And thus, I believe this is a formal proceeding of the Standing Committee on Procedure and House Affairs. And so, therefore, privilege would apply to this proceeding, regardless of our location or how it's being broadcasted. And so, that's been my understanding from what we've heard from all of the witnesses. And we'll hear from our wonderful law clerk, Justin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's Justin, the clerk, speaking. So just to add to what the chair has indicated, the meeting today is proceeding in public because of the House motion from April the 11th, which indicated that all virtual committee meetings are webcast on Parleview to the public. So that effectively constrains not only our committee, but all committees, requiring them to hold their meetings in public, preventing the committee from considering matters in camera. So that's the basis of the reason why today's meeting is public. With respect to the issue of the markings on the draft report indicating confidential, that is a practice that when draft reports are sent out, we mark them as confidential as a way to prevent a wider distribution of the draft report to other people who aren't part of the committee or staff members working for them. However, I should reiterate that the draft report is entirely your document. It is entirely up to the committee to decide how the document should be viewed, whether it should be viewed as something that is confidential, or if you want to share it more broadly. It is your working document, and at least initially it's sent out to you, shared with you under the usual practice, which is to indicate that it's a working document that is confidential. What you choose to do with that, how you choose what kind of status you would want to give it, whether it be confidential or not, is entirely up to the committee to make that decision, and therefore it would be ultimately a decision that the committee could decide to make with respect to this report.
Okay, so we have heard from the law clerk, and I'm looking. I have one more announcement to make. I don't know how the members will feel, but since the request was made to me, I think it's only fair to share it with everybody else. Madam May, Ms. May has been participant in a lot of our proceedings, and we've allowed her to sit in. She has requested and sent a request to me and the clerk to see if she can sit in during this proceeding. And so we have not sent her the invitation to sit in as of yet, because I wanted to clear it with the members here today. Any objections or comments on that?
Well, my comment on it would be, I think let's first have this resolved before we make that decision. Obviously, determining whether this is confidential or not would be the first step in determining something like that. So let's do that, and then we could make that determination. And I guess it would then be, what are the parameters around her participation? Is it to listen in? Is it to be able to provide obviously one would need to be a member of the committee to provide recommendations, for example. So, so obviously we would be, I guess our participation would be limited in that regard. But where would the limitations begin and end, I suppose, would be the question, right? But I think we need to address the current conversation before we can get to that one.
Okay, I thought that to some degree we had, if you could just put your hand up in the participant bar, unless it's a new point of order, then maybe you can just interject by saying point of order. But if it's to jump in on the conversation and the current points of orders that have been raised, then just raise your hand in the participant bar.
Okay. I think I did.
So
Okay.
point of order, Madam Chair.
Mr. Richards, on a new point of order?
Yeah, I guess it is, because I'm what you've just said there was for people to raise their hands. I'm looking, like, maybe the screen I'm seeing is different than the one you're seeing. I see 7 people with their hands raised.
Yeah, after you, it's Miss Blaney, and then you again, Mr. Richards, Mr. Garrettson, and then Mr. Algabra. Is that what you're seeing as well? That's what I'm seeing. Then Mr. Broussard.
Okay.
I mean,
Turnbull.
I don't see the order. All I see is the people who have hands raised, and it shows myself. It shows Miss Blaney. It shows Mr. Garrettson. It shows Mr. Algabra.
You don't see them in list order?
No, it just shows the people who have hands raised is all I see. I don't know what order they're in.
But what does it matter? You don't see it when we're sitting in a person meeting.
No, I'm not
to the chair to organize.
Sorry, if I don't know if that was appropriate.
Yeah, order or
I can address
order
it.
to the meeting. Yes.
I don't know that it, like, I'm not suggesting it does matter, but it seemed to me as though you were indicating that maybe it wasn't hands raised or something.
Mr. Richards, I think you will see it the same way I'm seeing it. I'll just guide you through. If you hit the,
I'm not concerned about being able to see the order. Like, that wasn't my concern. I just maybe misunderstood you. That I thought you were
okay.
saying.
So it's something that I've mentioned in the introductory remarks in every meeting as well. In order to generally, even when we're physically in a committee room, a point of order is raised, sometimes even in between other points of order. So in order to establish that it's a new point of order that somebody is raising, I would request that you just unmute your mic and raise a point of order. And then anyone after that, subsequent to that, wants to speak to that point of order, they actually click the raised hand icon in the participants tab or toolbar, and then I'll know that they wish to speak to that point of order. That's the way to keep it as orderly as possible as we do this virtually. And I think if you click on the participants, the icon below at the bottom toolbar, then a list should pop up on your right-hand side of your screen. And the order that the names occur on that list are in order of the timing of when they had raised their hand. So the order will continuously switch. You'll see that the names will go, the order will all of a sudden get switched when somebody else raises their hand or somebody unraises their hand, takes their hand down. So it's actually even more accurate than visually being able to be in the room. And sometimes if I'm looking to one direction, I'm unable to see in the other direction, and perhaps somebody raises their hand at the same time. This gives me the real-time entry that somebody has raised their hand into the system. So I believe, Mr. Richards, is your issue addressed at this point, or you seem to be next on the list now?
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm not sure. I don't recall since the last I spoke raising my hand. That's a little curious to me. Maybe I did and forgot. I don't know. I mean, obviously my issue hasn't been addressed. The concern still exists, but I didn't have anything new.
Point d'ordre, Madame la Présidente.
Madam Chair, point of order.
This point?
Sure. Yeah.
Madame Normandy?
Madam Chair, I can't get translation for Mr. Richards because he's not wearing the headset. It's been that way since the beginning, and I wanted to mention it. Personally, I can follow, but when Mr. Richards speaks, there's no interpretation into French. I just wanted to call attention to that.
Okay, thank you for raising that. I'll find out. I know the interpreters were having a problem with the sound. Let me find out. Just so we can get the translation back up and running, Mr. Richards, do you have earbuds you can put in? Do you have earbuds, perhaps instead of a headset, that may assist?
Sure. Well, that doesn't provide a microphone, right? So.
Do you have earbuds that have a microphone? A lot of them
well,
tend to have microphones
I
these days.
don't think so. I can check with
Okay.
with my team out front and see if there's anything handy, but I don't have anything handy here.
Please check with them. That may assist. And if not, if you end up not being able to find anything, then if you can speak closer to
Sure.
the mic on your computer, that may help as well.
What I'll do is, if you give me a moment, I can check about that. And then what I'll do is, if that's not the case, I'll just find out where exactly the microphone is on the computer and then try to be close to it if I can. So yeah, I guess if you want to give me a moment, I'll do that.
Yeah, sure. Okay, next up we have Mr. Algabra.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Look, it's ironic that the Conservatives are asking for less transparency, but let me make this point. The House of Commons has given us an order, and I think we can say that the objections of our colleagues have been noted, their comments have been noted, but we know what the terms are, and therefore I think we should just proceed. We have to complete this report by a certain time, and I think we should proceed. We've noted the objections and concerns, and but we are limited to what we can do. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Algabra. Next, Mr. Broussard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And quite frankly, I'd like to be spared the sanctimony, because I think we're dealing with a very serious issue. I think we're dealing with a very serious issue here, and that is the unintended consequences of what that April 11th motion reflects. And perhaps at the time that it was negotiated, it wasn't thought of the fact that we were going to be dealing with reports like this that are marked in a confidential manner, that are meant to be dealt with practically and consistently, as is House practice, in a confidential matter. Now, the concern I have, the privilege issue notwithstanding, because I think there is a valid concern for that, but the concern I have is we have had individuals and organizations that have come before us and provided testimony. Now, if any of us, me, Mr. Gerritsen, Mr. Algabra, call into question, for whatever reason, the testimony of any one of those individuals, say like Mr. Robert, the Speaker of the House, Mr. Dufresne, Mr. Patrice, if somehow the discussion comes back to the fact that maybe we don't agree with their testimony, my fear in not dealing with this in camera and being able to freely, as a member of Parliament, share my views and my thoughts as other members can share their views and their thoughts, is that it could potentially affect the working relationship that any one of us will have with House officers. And when we go over to the organizations like Zoom and Microsoft, even the Westminster Parliament, and some of the testimony that we've received from the Scottish Parliament, what we're effectively doing and what we're saying to ourselves by not being able to discuss this confidentially is that we're going to have to be mindful of what we say to not impact the potential of those working relationships that we are to have with people not just in our Parliament, but also perhaps those companies that provide services to the government, or those individuals that provided testimony from either the Scottish Parliament or the Westminster Parliament. So I think this speaks to a much broader issue of that unintended consequence of what that April 11th motion dictates, and the direction that it set out the committee to deal with this on all meetings publicly. I don't think it was intended to deal with what is a confidentially marked report that hasn't been put out there in public, that there are individuals and organizations who we are going to be speaking about and we can't be critical of anything that they said for fear of the impact and effect that it's going to have potentially on the relationships, or a level of disrespect for companies, or whatever the case is. So that really is my broader concern on this, that I think we should be able, Madam Chair, to have a free and open discussion, because we are dealing with a very significant issue here, as directed by the House, to talk about virtual sittings. Maybe one of us has something that we know about a business platform that we don't agree with. Well, how am I going to share that on here without the risk of, first and foremost, affecting that relationship, but secondly, saying something that may potentially put me or others in a position of liability? So the unintended consequence of that April 11th motion, Madam Chair, I don't think took into account the situation that we find ourselves in right now. And I want to get on with this report, because I think it's an important report, but I think we also have to be mindful of the impact that anything we speak about here, I mean, otherwise, let's just say, okay, well, let's accept it as is and not discuss it, and not being able to discuss it openly. I don't think that's the job of this committee, and I don't think that the individual members should be putting themselves in a position where we can't openly and freely discuss the contents of this report without fear of affecting those personal relationships that we've developed with people we work with, or those organizations that we respect, including other parliaments as well. So that's all I have to say. I think we need an answer to this, Madam Chair, frankly.
Okay. I know you raised some good points, Mr. Turnbull.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Is it on a new issue?
Yeah, well, I mean, really all I wanted to do is, I've got a set of earbuds here with a microphone. I wanted to see if they could check to see if the sound quality is better for them now.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe put those earphones in. And
they are in, and I am speaking on them now. So I'm
okay.
Trying to determine whether that has solved the problem for you.
Can you bring them a bit closer to your mouth, Mr. Richards? The mic portion.
Okay. Sure. I think
you hold on to the wire.
I believe that's what I've got. Is that better for them now?
Okay. I think so. Let me just confirm, though.
Yeah, apparently it's good.
Yeah, apparently it is good, Mr. Richards. So when you speak, when it is your turn to speak, then just try to hold on to the wire there. Next, we have Mr. Turnbull.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Just a few comments here. I have absolutely no reservations about moving forward in public here with the discussions over this report. I understand it's important work, and I think it needs to move ahead. I know Mr. Richards said he didn't have the chance to go through it in depth, but many of us got up at 7 a.m. to read through this report extensively and get prepared for this meeting. I'm really feeling like we're being held back significantly by this. I know that I'm a new MP, but I've read up on committee proceedings, and on the website, our Commons website, the 3rd edition, I guess, on committee proceedings, it does actually stipulate that committees do occasionally move forward on deliberating over draft reports. Although they usually proceed in camera, they are able to proceed in public. So I think, just from even a rules perspective, there are other examples of committees proceeding forward in this manner. So I wonder why this is such an issue now, when it's clear that we've been given the direction to do this. It really seems to me this is an attempt to hold us up, and I really think we need to get down to business, to echo my colleague Mr. Gerritson's point. The other thing I wanted to say publicly is I also believe that Ms. May has made a request to join this meeting, and I have absolutely no issue with that as well. She's a real, I think, provocative thinker. She thinks in depth about this. She's been to several of our other committee meetings, and I just wanted to express my support for her participation in the deliberations over this report. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Pettypat Taylor. Sorry, you've been waiting for so long that you forgot, I think, that you were on the list. My apologies. It's the first time we've had so many hands raised, and I think I did fudge things up a little bit. I just want to remind Mr. Turnbull and Mr. Broussard to lower their hands as well, so in the future there's no confusion. Thank you.
No need to apologize, Madam Chair. My simple comment was with respect to Madam May as well. I absolutely feel that she has an awful lot to contribute to the study. She has taken part in many of our meetings, and I really welcome her participation. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Garrettson.
I was just going to throw out there, since it's come up, that there's some concern over this, why my colleagues didn't raise this earlier on when they saw the order that had been given to us by the House, and in particular raise it with their folks who were in the House that voted in favor of it, to understand what their rationale was to supporting this motion that was sent over to us. I mean, it's been well over a month. There was tons of time to look into this, and to be surprised by the fact that we're dealing with this now. It seems like a lot of people are caught off guard by this. But the reality of the situation is if you had read the motion that we were given in terms of what to do in this study, you would know that this was right in there. And the fact that people seem to be shocked by it now is just a sign that they didn't do their proper homework before. And as a result, everybody else right now is getting held up. We've been at this for an hour, and we have not even started to talk about the report yet. And I think, we need to do what we've been asked to do and to get on with it.
Next up, we have Mr. Richards, and then Ms. Blaney, and then Dr. Duncan.
So I think there's obviously two issues here, and we've been mostly addressing one. I think I've raised the one issue, the other issue Mr. Broussard has raised it a couple of times. So I want to just touch on them both. I think I see a solution to one of them for sure. And that's the idea of the confidential report being discussed in a public format. It seems to me like probably the solution here is, once this point of order is done being addressed, I would be happy to make the motion if that's if there's support for it, would be just simply to make a motion that the report is not considered confidential, and that the committee is free to discuss it in public. If we were just to make that motion as a committee, then I would certainly feel comfortable, and I hope others would, to feel like there's no confidentiality being breached. So I'm happy to make that motion if that helps. And that would address the first issue. I don't really feel like we've addressed the second issue, though, and that's the issue that Mr. Broussard was speaking about a few moments ago, where we could be discussing things that have been said by witnesses and the issues that surround that. And I haven't heard anyone in the government side address that one. I hear lots of comments from the government members that we want to move on with things, and I do too. I want to make that really clear. I do too. I think this is an important report that we need to deal with. And there are a lot of issues we need to address in doing that. But we also have to make sure that we're doing it in an appropriate fashion. And I don't think, to say let's just get on with things without addressing something that actually is an issue, is a wise way to proceed. And so I think that we have a solution for one, if there's agreement that what I'm proposing makes sense. I don't think we have a solution for number two. I'm not hearing anything that addresses it. I guess I don't necessarily have one myself. That concern still remains in my mind.
What is the number two concern? Sorry.
Well, it was laid out very well by Mr. Broussard just a few moments ago.
Okay. Sorry, just wanted to clarify.
Rather than me repeat it, I just thought it would be
no, I got it.
Interest of time. Yeah.
I got it. Thank you, Ms. Blaney.
So first of all, I just wanted to put on the record that I'm absolutely fine with having Ms. May join our group here today. I appreciated what she sent out and welcome her voice added to this very important discussion. And I also, Mr. Richards, would be very happy to support your motion.
Okay, next we have Dr. Duncan.
Uh, Good morning, folks. Good morning, everyone. And I appreciate what has been shared this morning. I too would just like to add my voice. First of all, I've read through the report, and I'd like to thank all our witnesses who appeared, and of course, all those that prepared the report. I've read through carefully this morning. I hope we can get to going through the report. I think it's really important to point out that we have been given a mandate from the House, and I would like to quote from that. During the period the House stands adjourned, pursuant to this order, the Standing Committee on Health, the Standing Committee on Finance, the Standing Committee on Government Operations and Estimates, the Standing Committee on Human Resources, Skills and Social Development and the Status of Persons with Disability, and the Standing Committee of Industry, Science and Technology may hold meetings for the sole purpose of receiving evidence. I'll continue. That members shall attend and witnesses shall participate via either video conference or teleconference. And I will move now to the standing, and this is from the motion, the Standing Committee on Procedure and House Affairs be instructed to study ways in which members can fulfill their parliamentary duties while the House stands adjourned on account of public health concerns caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, including the temporary modification of certain procedures, sitting in alternate locations, and technological solutions, including a virtual parliament. I won't keep reading. The point is we have been given a mandate. Witnesses have appeared. We've been given a report, which I think we must review and discuss today. And I will add my voice. I think it would be important to hear from Ms. May this morning. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you for everyone who participated in this discussion. And I have to say that I think a lot of points have caused me to think deeper about this issue. And in particular, they were all very good points. I think, Mr. Broussard, you were definitely able to elaborate a little bit more and give me a better understanding of your apprehension about carrying on with this in public. The only thing I guess I can say as to your discomfort about the different platforms that we're going to discuss using, the different parliaments that we've spoken with, is that I'm not sure what your recommendations and how far you want to go into the nitty-gritty of things when it comes to this report, but as it's laid out right now by our analyst, and upon reading the report, it is higher level principles, and it very much focuses on our parliament and our country also being unique. And so I'm wondering if, not that this is an ideal situation. I'm not by no means saying that this is ideal, but that there is a way that we can go through this report and perhaps then take a look at if our recommendations would even get into anywhere near into saying whether a certain parliament is doing something that's not right, or, because I think we're really trying to pick something that is right for us, and we're not really even getting into picking platforms, but perhaps we'll be putting that ball in the administration and the technical team's court so that they can make those decisions. But we're focusing more on guiding principles. That's the way I see the analysts having laid out the report. And so a lot of these decisions are just guidelines for us to give back to the House in how they can move forward. So having said that, and having heard from everybody about, I see some raised hands on this issue, and maybe it's in response to something I've said, maybe I've said too much. So Mr. Richards, you're up first, and then Mr. Turnbull, and then Mr. Broussard.
No, Madam Chair, it actually was not in response to anything that you said. I appreciate that you're trying to provide some clarity. But what I didn't get was some clarity about the suggestion I made. I heard from Ms. Blaney that she thought it was a good idea. I didn't hear from anyone on the government side who spoke afterwards that there was agreement on the idea of waiving the confidentiality of the report or taking the confidential label off the report so that we can feel comfortable we're not divulging something confidential in a public setting. I certainly won't be
Madam Chair, point of order.
until I hear that assurance, and then we still have to address, of course, the second.
Madam Chair, point of order.
There's a new point of order.
There's numerous people indicating that Mr. Richards cannot be translated, and it's getting to be quite disturbing, I think, for those individuals.
Maybe we can
Madam
pause for a second again.
I forgot to hold the microphone close. I guess is that better?
That is much better.
Okay,
so if I could, I'll try to be more mindful if you can as well to hold your mic up closer so that the interpreters can hear. And of course, it's really important because Ms. Normandine, we need to ensure that she can participate fully in this meeting. And, we certainly do understand that that is a member's privilege to be able to be heard in either English or French in this committee meeting. So whatever we can do, and if we have to pause, I think everyone's okay with doing that. I take your point about the motion you're willing to raise. Let's just hear from a few more commenters, and we might be able to get to that.
Sure,
motion.
Madam Chair. My apologies. I did forget to raise the mic, and I will try to remember to do so. I'm happy to be prompted if I forget. It is obviously a little unnatural to sort of hold something up like this, so it's not something you recall or remember to do necessarily. I'll try and remember, but I will just repeat what I said for the benefit. If people weren't hearing it, then I want to make sure they have that opportunity. So simply what I had indicated was that it wasn't in response to anything that you had said, Madam Chair, that I raised my hand. It was more in response to something I wasn't hearing, which is that, when I raised the issue that I think we had a way around one of the concerns, which would be, I or whoever else would like to do so could move a motion to take the confidential label off the report so that we are not discussing something confidential in a public setting. That would address my concern, at least. I don't know if others feel the same way about that. I heard from Ms. Blaney that she felt comfortable with that. I didn't hear any indication from our bloc representative or from any of the government representatives whether they were comfortable with that. I think it would be important to know that before we move out of the point of order so that we know if we're in a position to have that addressed. And I will also point out, though, however, that still doesn't address the second set of concerns, which are also very valid concerns. So we do need to figure out a way to address those as well.
Thank you, Mr. Richards. I believe there's two more hands raised for the same point of order, and then after that, perhaps if it's okay with the committee, we can entertain your motion. I'll remind you that there is only limited circumstances in which this committee can take motions. So the order in reference stipulates that only motions needed to determine witnesses and motions related to the adoption of the report are in order. So I think there's a gray area here, and I think that we can associate this motion to be in relation to the adoption of the report, and I could hold it in order if the committee, if you wish to present that. But before you do, if we can just hear out all the members on the original point of order. So Mr. Turnbull and then Mr. Broussard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I appreciate the suggestion Mr. Richards made. But I respectfully just would say that I think that motion that he's suggesting would be out of order, given what you've just stipulated. I wonder if a simple removing of the confidentiality off the report without I wonder if that requires a motion at all, since the motion I think that Mr. Richards is proposing would be out of order technically. From I think as you said, I think motions, only ones that pertain to witnesses and their scheduling, seem to be in order, if I'm not mistaken.
You're muted, Ruby.
And motions related to the adoption of the report, So let's hear from Mr. Broussard, and then maybe we can hear from the clerk on that.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. And just quickly, I think what we need to do, perhaps each of us as committee members, is to go back to the leadership teams and talk to them about the unintended consequences that are going on with respect to the not just the drafting of the report, but also our discussion. If we are going to proceed with this, then I'm used to, in committee, having very frank discussions. Sometimes we don't agree, and sometimes we do, but it's going to be difficult. And I understand that this is a high-level report, but there may be some things that any one of us can call into question. So I think we need to go back to our leadership teams and express the view that there are some unintended consequences to this motion, particularly as it relates to the situation that we find ourselves in, and perhaps an amendment. If we are going to be in this situation for some period of time, an amendment can be made to the original motion. I don't know the mechanism to make that happen, but I think we need to be aware of that. I think we need to deal with these types of things confidentially, so that we can express our opinions, express our views, our concerns, perhaps counter arguments to what individual witnesses say, without the potential of affecting those relationships with either those individuals or impugning the companies that came before us. So I just think we need to consider this, as all of us as members of this committee. If this is the first time that we've seen this situation evolve, I think it's incumbent upon us, and we have a responsibility to let our leadership teams know about it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Point of order.
Mr. Garrettson.
This isn't the first time that we've seen this, Madam Chair. There's been a number of people that have cited that this has happened, and the precedent has definitely been established to this point. But I think, as a point of order, I just want to point out that what we have been engaging for over the last hour is actually a debate on an issue, not a point of order. You as the chair should receive the original point of order, listen to any other input on it, and then you make a decision. That's how a point of order works. This has turned into just a free-for-all debate over an issue and an assumption that we need to come to some kind of joint resolution on it, when we don't. Point of order, the decision is made by the chair, and then if a majority of members are not happy with that decision, there's other options that we can take. In terms of going back to our leadership to make advise them of perhaps some unintended consequences, this is out of the hands of our leadership at this point. This is a motion that was adopted by the House of Commons. Once it's been adopted, it is the House's will at that point. If we want to go back and suddenly say to the House, you made an error, then that can be done through the individual channels that allow us to do that, but it certainly should not affect the way that this committee continues to operate. This committee must operate now under the direction that it has been given, and that's what the job that we've been tasked to do. We need to get on with this, because we've been having a debate on an issue that has been raised by one or two members for the last hour, and it's certainly gone well beyond what would be considered a point of order.
Madam?
Yes, no, I'm going to hear from one last speaker, Madame Normandin, and then we're going to move to the motion that
Point of order,
Mr. Richards is, yes?
Yeah, I don't know, maybe it's an issue with the technology or what it is, but I did have some other points I wanted to make, but I see my hand was still raised, so I couldn't.
Maybe you could bring the microphone to your mouth.
Yes, I'm sorry. That's a difficult thing to remember for some reason.
I believe your hand was raised from before, so you have to unraise your hand and then put your hand.
So I have to lower it and then re-raise it. Okay.
Yes,
no
so
problem.
that the order is correct.
I just, saw my hand was raised and thought that I was on the list, but okay, no problem.
No, you have to unraise it, otherwise it gives me an incorrect order, and you would always remain at the top of the list the whole time. Although you may like that, but I'm sure the other members.
No, I don't think that would be fair. I just didn't realize. I thought that someone lowered her hand when we were given this floor. But okay, no problem.
No problem. So the last person we're taking on this point of order is Madame Normandin, and after that we will after that, we'll get on to the next step that I'll mention.
Okay. Juste parce que je suis pas
Just because I haven't spoken and it's only people from the governing party who have spoken for now. So if we come up with a report on consensus, we might remember all the debate we've had before. I understand that people who have dissenting opinions will make these opinions known in a dissenting report, and then it will become public. So if you're ready to express things in a public report, I don't see why you would feel uncomfortable about having discussions in public today about it.
For that comment, well noted as well. I think everyone's had an opportunity at length to be able to discuss this issue, so I'm not going to entertain any more comments on this issue.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Yes.
My hand was raised.
But you want to make a new point of order, Mr. Richards? Is that what you're saying?
No, my hand was raised to speak to this.
I'm not taking any more comments on this. I think
but I had my hand raised prior to you indicating that, Madam Chair, so I would believe that it would be in order for me to be able to have that opportunity still.
Your hand was raised from the previous hand raised.
No,
but
I did as you asked me to. I lowered my hand and raised it, and that was prior to you.
I had already, prior to taking Madame Normandy, said this is the last.
My hand was raised
speaker.
Prior to that, Madam Chair.
Okay, all right. I guess I'll allow a quick comment.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I still haven't heard any indication as far as where certain members, particularly the government members, feel about taking the confidential label off the report. I certainly am not comfortable proceeding to discuss something that is marked confidential in a public format. There are ways besides leaving the meeting that I can ensure that doesn't happen. So I hope that despite the fact that people indicate that they think that this is not something that's important. It is important, and something that I think is important enough that we can address it in other ways if we can't just come to an easy resolution, which I can't imagine why anyone would have an issue with. I still think we were left with the problems around the second issue, and obviously that we need to address that in our report. For one thing, but secondly, it does put members in a very awkward position. I guess some people on the conference don't believe that that's important. I think it is. Maybe you'll address that with what you're about to say, but
yes,
I'm certainly not comfortable until we've addressed those issues, and there are ways we can make sure that those get addressed before we can proceed. So I hope that we can address them somehow.
Okay. Yes, and that is what I was going to do. I'm going to move forward from hearing from everybody on discussion of these points of order and actually move on with allowing you to have the floor, Mr. Richards, to move your motion in regards to removing the wording of confidential off this report. I'm going to interpret for this purpose only that motions related to the adoption of the report are in order. I'm interpreting that broadly because I do believe being able to do this will get us past a point that will allow us to then go through the draft report and be able to make our recommendations and submit it to Parliament, which is what we have been tasked with. So I believe this motion will be in order. So you have the floor, Mr. Richards.
Okay, thanks, Madam Chair. I still point out we'll still have to find some resolution to the second issue, obviously, but I think we can easily address the first issue, and so I'll move the motion that the confidential label be removed from the report, and so that we can discuss it in a private or in a public forum, and that'll be the motion.
Thank you. Thank you,
Point
Mr. Richards.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Yes, Madame Petitpas-Taylor.
Could I simply ask Mr. Richards not to have the mic so close to his mouth? I'm not trying to be difficult, but it's just making a lot of noise in my ears now, and it's becoming really quite disturbing. So thank you.
So I guess there's a happy
just
medium.
on that point of
There's
order,
a happy medium there.
how do we
think,
just? I don't know where I'm supposed to have it. It's
Yeah.
not to be down. It's not to be up. Where would you like it to
So,
be?
in
I'm not trying
between-
to be difficult either. I
No,
just need to
I
know
know.
where it's
I
appropriate. I
think-
can't hear myself. So
Even I was hearing a lot of static, and I think Miss Normandan was having a hard time, and I'm sure the interpreters are having an even harder time right now. Even when we are at the mics that we have physically in Parliament, if you get too close to the mic, it does give that static and that really loud sound back for the interpreters, and it's difficult to hear. But you need to be close enough. So I guess
Okay,
it can't
so,
be down
Madam
on your
Chair,
chest. It should just be around your neck somewhere.
sure. Could I maybe just get some thumbs up? Is now okay? All right.
It's
So
perfect.
I've
There's
got
no
a better
static.
idea where it needs to be. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And we can go to a vote then on that motion.
Can we have a recorded vote on that?
Yes. All votes will be recorded.
Yes, hello, it's Justin the clerk. I'll conduct the vote. This is on the motion of Mr. Richards. Mr. Richards.
Yes.
Mr. Broussard.
Yes.
Mr. Duncan.
Yes.
Mr. Tucker.
Yes.
Madame Normandin.
Oui.
Ms. Bellini.
Yes.
Mr. Garrettson.
Yes.
Ms. Duncan.
Yes.
Madame Petitpas-Taylor.
Oui.
Mr. Turnbull.
Yes.
Mr. Algabra.
Yes.
Motion is carried, Madam Chair.
Okay. Thank you. So because I felt that this was important towards the adoption of the report, I did in this instance interpret it broadly, but I want to make that clear. And we don't have a lot of leeway on that. And even to the second point that was made in the original point of order, which is the concern about having this meeting in public. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of latitude there either. And so although your points are taken, and I do consider a lot of your concerns to be legitimate, we have to do what we have been mandated to do as a committee, and therefore in a public meeting we will have to be adopting and going through this draft report, and hopefully we can move on from this issue right now. You can definitely feel free to discuss it with your party leadership. I'm sure that this was discussed. It may not have been an unintended consequence, because it was clear in the motion that we would be presenting a report to the House of Commons on May 15th. And that was particularly stated in that motion, that all meetings be made public and that the committee present a report by the date of May 15th to the House of Commons. So if we can begin where we last left off before the points of order, which was, oh, no, we have one more issue, I believe, Madame May. Do we have, some people did make comments as to wanting her preference. I know that there were other comments made around the rules of her participation in the meeting. You can just give me a minute on that. Okay, I was just looking for a general consensus on that issue. I obviously don't want to belabor that point either. Is there, if by nodding of heads I can see if there's a general consensus? If there's not, then we won't have Ms. May participate. Yes, Mr. Richards?
I guess I would be looking to understand the the microphone. I would be looking to understand what the parameters would be of that participation before I could be comfortable giving a response.
Okay, to answer that question, Mr. Richards, I believe Ms. May does want to participate and whenever recognized to be able to provide her feedback and make comments and not just to sit in without making any suggestions or comments, because of course she could probably do that off Parle View. So that is my understanding of her request.
Okay, my feeling is that obviously we're singling out one member of Parliament. You're either a member of the committee or you're not. If you're not a member, you generally don't participate in report writing. And if we open it up to one, why wouldn't we open it up to all the other 338? So I would be uncomfortable with signaling out one individual to be included.
Okay, completely respect that decision, and we're going to move on from this. Ms. May, if you are watching, or I'll inform her, she's free to talk to other committee members and share her ideas. I think there's nothing wrong with that. Any member of Parliament can do that individually to different committee members, but we will not have her participate in this meeting nor the next meeting. Okay, so now moving on to the report. I know there's a couple of members that don't have the line numbers on the side of the report. It was sent in that format. Unfortunately, another member has indicated to me that they too don't have line numbers. For me, it depends on what device I open the report up on, but my printed version does not. My version on my Surface Pro does. That's the one I'm using to enter this Zoom meeting, so I'm going to have to go back and forth a little bit. I might not be able to see some of you. So do you want to go line by line, or do you want to go paragraph and by ideas?
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Yes, Ms. Richards.
I had my hand raised. I do have some issues that I would like to address that would, I think, be helpful in the discussions we're going to have. There's a few items. The first one being that there are a number of outstanding requests that were made by the Committee of Witnesses for production of some documents, and I can go through them. I know there was some stuff that was sent around this morning. I was going through what I could of the report, and didn't have a chance to look at that. So some of these may have been addressed in that email this morning, but I'll go through them one by one here just to see if we have any indication as to whether any of these have been received or expected to be received. Obviously, there are things that we felt were, or at least one member, and with no objection from anyone else, in all instances, felt were important for the committee's benefit and for the committee's information, and it would be good to have when we're writing a report, obviously.
Yeah, and we can confirm with the clerk.
I can go through them so that the clerk has the list. So I'll do that first, and then I do have two other things that I want to, and maybe the clerk can respond to all of it following that. So the first was on April 21st.
Can I make a point of order, Madam Chair?
I'm in the middle of a point of order right now, I believe.
Well, I guess
Mr. Garrettson?
That's my point. That's my point of order, is that a point of order means you're bringing up the fact that you believe that there has been a procedural error to the conduct and the operations of the meeting. You are making a point of order of the meeting. Mr. Richards is instead trying to discuss some of the issues and challenges that he sees with the report and get answers to those questions. He's superseding perhaps the order that the meeting is going to take, and that we will eventually get to that point. So if there's a point of order that the chair has done something incorrectly in proceeding with the meeting, let's hear what that is, let's address it, and let's move on. But this is not all of a sudden point of order, now I get to deal with my issues for the next 20 minutes, because that's not what a point of order is.
Sounds like Mr. Gerritsen is challenging the chair.
Hold on. If I could just respond, thank you.
Can I respond to the point of order before the chair's ruling, Madam Chair?
No, I'm not making, I'm just going to actually allow you, so let you,
okay, thank you.
So maybe you'd like to hear what I'd like to say. So I'm just going to, because we haven't heard you out, if you do need clarification, it seems like you're seeking some kind of clarification, then I'm going to allow you to ask what you need clarification on, and we will see if it is allowable and a proper point of order, and the clerk may be able to respond to it. So let's hear you out.
Sure, thank you. I appreciate that. That was the point I was trying to make, Madam Chair, is that I think members need to let me finish so they can see that it is, in fact, what I indicated is. I mean, it's simply a matter that we need to have these issues dealt with so we can consider the report in an appropriate fashion. So I'll go through them. So the first point I was making, obviously, was I already indicated regards to the outstanding requests. There was 4 documents to be produced by various witnesses, and I'll just go through them so that the clerk will have the list of what they were, and we can maybe then see if there are responses to that. So the first one was on during the April 21st meeting. The clerk of the House, Charles Robert, Ms. Blaney, had asked for an assessment of which MPs could have problems or concerns with internet accessibility, and whether that was something that the clerk or House administration had a handle on. On April 29th, there were several of Mr. Mosley from Zoom. Mr. Gerritsen had asked for internet connections minimum megabytes per second for Zoom to be able to work properly. Of Ms. Lalibert from Translation Bureau, Ms. Blaney had asked for numbers of increased injury or fatigue incident reports. Of Mr. Mosley, Ms. Blaney had asked for the number of employees that they have in Canada. Of Mr. Mosley again, Mr. Duncan had asked for the status of the Master Services Agreement with the House of Commons and a copy of it. Again, of Mr. Mosley, Ms. Duncan had asked for about their ability to authenticate votes. Of Mr. Wiggelt from Microsoft, Ms. Duncan again had asked for cryptographic measures which would be recommended to protect the integrity of votes. Then on April 30th, there were a few requests there. Of Mr. McCowan of the PCO, I had asked for the government's perspective or policy on the use of Zoom. Of Mr. McGill from the Scottish Parliament, Ms. Duncan had asked for the options being considered there for remote voting. Of Mr. Hamlin of the UK House of Commons, Ms. Duncan had asked for remote voting testing arrangements and follow-up on their testing results. Of Mr. McGowan of the PCO, Ms. Blaney had asked whether cabinet interpretation is provided by Translation Bureau employees or freelance contractors, and if contractors, whether they are certified. And then lastly, on May the 4th meeting, there were 5 requests. I requested of Ms. Gagnon of the International Association of Conference Interpreters whether there was a research paper or study referred to that was referred to in their brief and in their comments as quote, conclusive proof of the quality of sound teleconferences provide never come close to the quality of sound needed for remote simultaneous interpretation. So it was of whether there was a study or research paper that was referred to in that quote. She indicated there was and would provide it. Mr. Phillips of the Canadian Association of Professional Employees, both Mr. Turnbull and Ms. Blaney had asked for numbers concerning the interpreter's injuries. Again, of Mr. Phillips, Ms. Blaney had asked ISO details associated with international standards for interpreters and video conferences. And Ms. Blaney had also asked of Mr. Phillips for a follow-up brief on when consecutive interpretation would be more appropriate than simultaneous interpretation. And lastly, of Mr. Patrice, the Deputy Clerk Administration, Mr. Broussard had asked for the number of employees required for virtual proceedings. So that was the first thing. The second thing was I had asked if we could have our analyst provide, and he indicated he would provide it, so I know we'll receive it, but I just wondered where the status of it is. Research on provincial governments and their reopening plans or status currently of their legislatures as far as their sittings. And then thirdly, there were a number of witnesses which were proposed but not heard from, and I just wanted to get indication as to what happened with those witnesses. I think some of them are quite significant, particularly in the there's 4 different groups of witnesses. The first one would be security witnesses, and we didn't really get a lot of chance to discuss this, even though there seemed to be some concerns that were raised, I know, by myself and a number of other members that didn't really get sufficiently addressed. And I think in order to produce a proper report, we need to have some of those concerns addressed. So one of them that was quite significant was the communication security establishment and officials from there. We didn't hear from any of them. And other witnesses in regards to security that were requested that were not heard from was Dick Fadden, who's the former National Security Advisor to the Prime Minister and also the former Director of the Canadian Security Intelligence Service. Chris Vickery, who's Director of Cyber Risk Research for UpGuard, and then the Canadian Institute for Cybersecurity at the University of New Brunswick and representatives from there. Other groupings of witnesses that could be considered quite important that we didn't hear from was some of the other former officials from the House of Commons. Audrey O'Brien obviously was the former clerk, and many of us will remember her, and she often provides some very good advice. We did not hear from her, or also from the previous law clerk. No, pardon me. The previous law clerk, Mr. Rob Walsh, and another former clerk, Mr. Marlowe, who has obviously written a number of important books that we utilize in our day-to-day lives as parliamentarians. So the advice there would have been good. And then again, with regards to other jurisdictions, there was a number of witnesses that were suggested. We did hear from a couple, but we didn't hear from any of the Australian Senate or House of Representatives officials. We didn't hear from New Zealand, their House of Reps, or the United States from either Senate or House of Reps. Obviously, those are quite, those are often considered 3 of the very more, I guess, close comparisons we make to our systems, and then also from the Interparliamentary Union officials. And then there was also just a few other witnesses that I would call others. Dale Smith, author of The Unbroken Machine, Canada's Democracy in Action. Dr. Hannah White, Deputy Director of the Institute for Government, and then Dr. Kathy Brock, who's a professor at Queen's University. So those were all people we didn't hear from that may have been, and in some cases would have provided some very significant potential testimony that we didn't hear from. I wondered if we could get updates on all 3 of these items.
Unmute. You're mute.
Sorry. Madame Normandine and then Miss Blaney, please.
En fait, moi, je remonte.
In fact, I wanted to intervene with regard to the report. If we get there, I was going to recommend that we deal with it paragraph by paragraph, because a paragraph encompasses an idea as opposed to a line, especially with translation when the lines don't coincide.
And I tend to agree with you, and I think that's how we will proceed. Miss Blaney?
I'm not sure how I got on the list. I'm good at this point. You're muted.
Oh, sorry, I've been so good at this all the other meetings, and today is just throwing me off. Sorry, I saw you waving your hand like this in the screen, and I thought you had forgot to. Okay, it was about interpretation. Thank you. So we're going to hear from the clerk as to some of these.
Yes, thanks, Madam Chair. On Mr. Richards' first point with respect to some of the documents in terms of follow-up information that witnesses committed to get back to the committee, the answer is we have some of the material that has been sent in to us and has been distributed. We are, however, still waiting for some of the other material from various witnesses. I know that some of the Mr. Mosley did get back to me and provide information, and that information is in the process of being translated.
That was from Zoom, correct?
From Zoom, that's right.
Yeah.
Harry Mosley from Zoom, and that information may have been, in fact, perhaps distributed even this morning in terms of that we received the translation back. There are some other witnesses from earlier on, for example, Madame La Liberté from the Translation Bureau. We are still waiting for information back from her. So that is an outstanding item that we have not received yet. Same goes for information from Mr. Weigel. And I noted that yesterday evening, or it may have been early this morning, distribution from follow-up information from the Privy Council office was sent around, was received yesterday and then sent around yesterday evening or this morning. I can also say that some of the more recent, and just in fact, as this meeting was going on, I noticed an email come from Mr. Hamlin, which I am assuming is some follow-up information that Mr. Hamlin from the UK Parliament is providing to us. That, of course, before it gets distributed to the committee, will need to be translated and then sent around to the committee. In terms of commitments from our most recent meeting on May the 4th, that I have not received any follow-up information yet from Madame Gagnon or Mr. Phillips. My understanding from what they'd indicated in the meeting that in some instances they would need to consult with the Translation Bureau to be able to put adequate follow-up information together. So the long and short of it is, in terms of information that we're expecting back, we've gotten some of the material back. We don't have all of it back. And as I am receiving it and able to get it translated, I'm distributing it to the members of the committee. But Mr. Richards is right, there still is some outstanding material that is left to be provided to me from the witnesses that we've seen. On Mr. Richards' second point about the briefing note, I can confirm that there is a briefing note that is in the process of being worked on and should be distributed shortly. And that is a comparison of provincial and territorial measures that they have taken in terms of how they are proceeding with respect to sittings for the coronavirus. In terms of witnesses, the first explanation in terms of some of the witnesses Mr. Richard indicate that didn't appear is mostly due to the limited nature of meetings that the committee was able to have with witnesses, the need to balance out panels amongst the various suggestions that came in from different members and different parties, and some of the reasons why some of the witnesses weren't called, for example, Mr. Fadden, is that the panels that we did have on internet security filled up with other witnesses before we got around to calling or inviting some of the other witnesses. And when that occurs, we didn't proceed to invite them because we had already filled the panels. Some of the witnesses that were also mentioned, and I noted Audrey O'Brien, Robert Marlowe, Mr. Walsh, they declined an invitation, as well as for the U.S. House and Senate. They were approached, but they also declined. I can say that with respect to the issue of the New Zealand Parliament and the Australian House of Representatives, we did not approach them, mostly because we looked at the time zone change, and for them to have appeared, it would have suggested they would be appearing from their local time at early in the morning, 1 in the morning, 2 a.m. in the morning, and for that reason, we didn't approach them on that basis. I hope that responds to some of those concerns.
Sure. Madam Chair, if I just can, just for some further clarity on a
Okay.
couple things briefly.
Mhm.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Microphone.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. Just for some further clarity on a couple of those items briefly. Appreciate the clarification that you've given, and I appreciate the difficult nature of the short timelines. And I will say that I want to point out that I think our clerk, our analyst, all of the folks that support us here are doing a great job trying to keep up with everything that's happening. So I want to make sure that I make it clear that nothing here calls that into question in any way. I just, obviously there are things we do in some cases need for a proper report. So I'll just let me address first, I guess the first point I made about the undertakings that we were awaiting. So it sounds like most of them are addressed, other than obviously the last meeting, and we're still awaiting some of those. There was a couple I noted that maybe I missed it, but I don't think our clerk addressed. The first one was from Mr. Robert, the clerk of the House of Commons, from the 21st of April meeting, and then the one from Mr. McGill of the Scottish Parliament. I didn't hear anything. I guess we haven't received anything from either of those. And then obviously with the stuff from May 4th, can maybe you just give me an indication if we've done any follow-up with the individuals who haven't sent anything, and maybe when we might expect to receive those, and the ones from the May 4th meeting. Obviously, they'll be important information for us in writing the report. And then on the witnesses, I appreciate that clarification as well. What about the security communication security establishment, CSE? What happened with them in specific? I just think that there was a number of issues that arose around security that they would have been a really good witness. So I just wanted to get some indication on that one in particular.
Madam Chair, it's Justin, the clerk again. In terms of some of the witnesses or in follow-up information that they committed to provide to us, generally, if we've received a response, it's been sent out in the amount of time that it takes to have it translated. Sometimes that might be a day or two. I can follow up with and check if we've received something from the clerk of the House. I do know there was one bit of follow-up information that did come from Michelle Petrice, the Deputy Clerk Administration from the House. It's entirely possible that the House viewed that as essentially the follow-up information that they were committed to providing back. But I can follow up and determine if in fact that was the case. Follow-up information that Mr. McGill from the Scottish Parliament committed to providing. I have not seen anything like that as of yet, but I can definitely follow up with them as well to see if that is forthcoming. Lastly, you mentioned some of the follow-up information from the May 4th meeting. I have had some discussion with those various witnesses, and as I indicated, some of the, and as they indicated in the meeting 3 days ago, some of the material that they needed to provide back to the committee would be information they would need from the Translation Bureau. And so they were committed to approaching them to secure the information that they needed in order for them to pass on the follow-up information back to the committee. But I can also check with them to see where they are with that and just how quickly the committee can expect to get information back. I have indicated to them that, or to many of them, that the committee is currently at this meeting looking at the draft report and is anticipating looking at the draft report in the next meeting, so next Tuesday. And for this follow-up information to be of any kind of benefit to the members, ideally it would be for them to send that information in during the time that the committee is considering the draft report. That would mean today and Tuesday. With respect to your specific question for CSE, unfortunately, that would fall into the same category as I indicated earlier. The limited nature of meetings that we were able to have on internet safety, they filled up with various witnesses, and once those panels were filled up, we didn't necessarily go through any further down the list in terms of providing invitations, precisely because the panels, we had managed to secure enough witnesses from a variety of the party lists that had been provided to give us full and balanced panels for those meetings. Thank you.
Thank you very much for all the information and the diligence that you're undertaking to provide all that for us. I appreciate the clarifications.
Thank you. Well, that was quite impressive. That was a long list, and to have it all in order, because I could only recall some off the top of my head, but thank you, Justin, the fact that you had all that readily handy. Ms. Normandin has proposed that we go through the report section by section on a topical basis. I think that's a good suggestion because the translated version, of course, sometimes falls on different lines. Yes, Mr. Richards?
Great. Yeah, thank you. I still, obviously don't have a problem with going through things, sort of point by point or paragraph by paragraph. But I will point out, and this I separated this from the conversation that I was having with the clerk because I don't believe that. It's something that we can fault our clerk on by any means, but I do think that CSE, given some of the things that were raised about security, I know I did, I know others did, and there was advice that seems to be provided by CSE, at least what's reported in the media, that doesn't seem to have really been followed by the government. That I think it would really have been important to have heard from CSE, and I don't know how we now address that. I mean, one of the things I will point out is that we are rushing through this. I get that we've been directed to do this by the House, but we may need to consider the idea that any report we're providing now would be simply an interim report just to deal with the immediate situation, and that anything that's being done to address something that's recommendations towards a future crisis like this, because my assumption of what we're doing here, and maybe others have it under a different understanding, is that not only are we sort of looking at the period of time that we're dealing with now, but we seem to be straying into the area which may be a little bit outside the motion that we were given of what happens in future situations like this one. I think if we're going to be if that is a decision that the committee makes, and I'm not suggesting we should necessarily do that, but if we're going to do that, that we probably need to have a bit more, full study here that includes things like that. And so if the committee makes that decision, we would maybe want to consider this being just an interim report to deal with the immediate situation, and then anything that would be going forward from there would certainly require more study. That may not be within the motion, I don't believe, and maybe the committee doesn't want to go there, and that's a decision we'll all have to make. But I just point out that some of these things are lacking, and I get that's constraints we've been given by the House, but if we're doing anything beyond looking at the immediate situation, we'd be doing a disservice if we weren't to consider some of those things.
Yeah, thank you for your points, Mr. Richards. At this point, I would suggest that we start going through our draft report. And of course, if the committee finds that they do want to title the report a certain way, it's up to the committee. If the committee decides they want to study this issue beyond this report's deadline, the committee may decide to do that as well. If the committee decides to even put that into one of the recommendations or highlight in certain sections that certain information was lacking or missing, the committee can also do that. If there isn't consensus on some of those things, then of course we do have our supplementary and dissenting opinions where we can also stipulate that. And in addition, since this meeting is public, some of those issues were also noted and will be recognized in the blues, and of course on Parleview, where everyone can see that we were on a rush time frame. We did the best we could in terms of being able to invite a variety of people, and I have to attest to the fact that what Justin has said, even when we were going through the witnesses in certain panels for certain days, I could see that they had done a really good job at putting together witnesses that came from a variety of different parties. So on any given day, perhaps not on every panel, but in any given meeting, we made sure we had witnesses that the Conservatives had suggested, witnesses in that topical area that the Liberals or the Bloc or the NDP had suggested. So that we had somebody had each party had suggested on each topic. So that is the best we could do in this time frame. but of course, we're free to include that into our report, those comments and those suggestions to study further. So in terms of going through the report, I guess we will start with page 1 and the introduction. Are there any issues that anyone would like to raise with the introduction?
Madam Chair, I will point out and not to try and delay things in any way, but just do give us a little time, because in some cases, I mean, certainly with certain parts, and the introduction being one of those for me, I'm asking to have a chance to read the whole page while we all sit here, but certainly just give us a little bit of time before moving ahead, so that we can have a quick look at the page, at least in the instance where we haven't had a chance to view it. Obviously, with the rush nature of things, that in some cases will be the case. So just to ask that you move a little bit slowly, not excessively slowly, but a little bit slowly, if you wouldn't mind.
We can take some time on each paragraph, so I'll slowly ask if there's any issues or any suggestions to any of the paragraphs as we go through it, and I'll give you some time to quickly skim it at least. Okay, just raising a suggestion, as I think maybe that was enough time to get through the introduction. As we go into the other paragraphs, we do have a function at the bottom called reactions. Maybe everyone can just put a thumbs up when they've gotten through the paragraph and are okay with it. And if they're not okay with it, they can raise their hand in the participants section to provide feedback. So this is for the introduction. Is everyone okay with the introduction? Just the introduction. If everyone can also put their cameras on at this time, if I can see, if your camera is on, I'll be able to see your thumbs up reaction. Thank you.
But Madam Chair, the thumbs up only stays for a certain period of time and then it disappears.
Yeah, I know.
I had it up. But...
Oh, maybe I missed it. Okay, I'll try to do a better job at recognizing once I've seen the thumbs up. I've seen them go up for almost everybody. Omar, did you put yours? Okay. I think I've seen it, Mr. Brassard.
Where's the thumbs up?
It's at the bottom of, the bottom of your tool, the toolbar at the bottom.
Oh, that's a clap.
Yeah, well, I'll take that. I'll take that. So we can move on to number 1, Standing Committee on Procedure and House Affairs, Study on Parliamentary Duties and the COVID-19 Pandemic. I'll give everyone a few minutes to go through that, and then I'll try to make note of everyone who is okay with it, or if there's any issues, raise your hand.
Sorry, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
Madam,
Can you just clarify where exactly we're being asked to give our thumbs up on now? What portion of the report?
You're on part 1 on page 1, and it continues into page 2, the whole part 1. And Madame Normandine, you have a comment?
Oui.
Yes, the last paragraph refers to a study by Nova Scotia, and it's not mentioned anywhere else in the document. So I'm wondering if it's just a mistake or if it's actually referring to something specific.
Refer to a study in this version. It just refers to the our roots of parliamentary representation and good governance, I guess, responsible government, going back to the roots in Nova Scotia. Just a historical perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct, Andre? Do you have it the same way in both versions?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. I added it just as a nod to Nova Scotia.
Yeah, I thought it was nice. I thought it was nice. Thank you, Madame Normandine, for bringing that up.
Madam Chair.
Yep.
Now that it's public, I mean, the public can certainly see the compelling work that we're doing on these reports. But I'll and you'll laugh when I say this, but line 24, Standing Committee on Procedure and House Affairs. Should affairs have an apostrophe there? Or should it just be the removal of the apostrophe and just have it as affairs?
Okay. Yeah. And House Affairs. Sorry, I didn't have the lines, but that's the very first paragraph in part 1, right?
Yeah, Standing Committee on Procedure and House Affairs. Should it have the apostrophe there, or should it just, okay?
No, it shouldn't. I think that's just a typo. Correct, Andre?
Right.
Okay, he's got it.
Yeah.
That will be fixed.
There's the compelling work, Madam Chair, of in-camera committee meetings. So.
No, I'm glad you caught that sharp eye. I think the NDP is good to go on this section. I may not have seen some of the other hands ups. Maybe you could just put a physical thumbs up in the air, and I can see. There you go. Okay, Turnbull's okay. Garrettson's okay with it. Madame Normandine's okay. Miss Duncan, Mr. Tucker. Patty Pot Taylor is okay with it. Mr. Algabra? Okay. All right, Mr. Broussard. Mr. Richards? I can't see you right now, Mr. Richards, because your camera is turned off. Are we okay to move forward to section A? A1. I'm going to assume we're okay to move forward to section A1.
Madam Chair, can I, sorry, can I just clarify? And I hate to do this, but I want to go back to the introduction because the reference to 1867, just need clarification on that. That the House has only had a planned sitting schedule since November of 1982 is my understanding. So given that the House has actually only had a sitting schedule, and maybe Andre can clarify this, since 1982, not 1867.
Perhaps, maybe Andre can clarify, but perhaps the House has not been cancelled for any emergency reasons since 1867. I think that's what Andre's trying to get at. Andre?
I see, okay.
Yeah, Madam Chair, you're correct, and Mr. Broussard is also correct. I tried to phrase it in a way that kind of captured both and would be able to go back past 1982. Maybe the phrasing isn't perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
As long as the understanding is correct, I think we're good to go. So thank you, Andre.
Okay, so we are on page 3. Sorry, no, we're still on page 2, section 2. Notable other decisions taken by the House of Commons related to the committee's study. That one is a short section. Okay, thank you, Mr. Duncan. You're okay with that? NDP is okay, Bloc is okay. It seems like the Liberals have gotten through that section. Mr. Tucker, Mr. Richards? Mr. Tucker is okay with that section, section 2?
Madam Chair?
Mr. Richards? Yes, Mr. Broussard?
Yeah, I woke up earlier than 7 o'clock this morning to read this, so you'll have to excuse me. But
I did.
On Wednesdays, there's no mention of the fact that there are take note debates that occur on Wednesdays as well. We're going to accurately reflect what's going on in the House on those days. I think we also need to reflect that take note debates are part of that.
Oh.
Andre? Okay.
Thank you for pointing that out. Actually, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, this is why I'm so tired this morning, Madam Chair.
Well, not tired enough to raise good points, so that's fine. All right, so I think we are good to go for that section. Now we are on to section A1. COVID-19 pandemic in Canada, the overview of health data in Canada for COVID-19. This just indicates some outdated, slightly outdated, but it indicates that it's outdated testimony that we received from the public health official that came. So it's very just statistically based. Everyone's good with this?
Can I make a comment?
Yes, Mr. Turnbull?
Just a quick suggestion. I felt like the section was really well written, but the last line of it could have been rounded out with a conclusion, which, the section seems to point to the fact that the numbers continue to rise and that there's still a serious public health threat.
Sorry, you want the conclusion of that section to be that the public health threat from COVID-19 continues?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Is that okay with everyone? Andre, you'll be able to add that in? Okay. All right, now section 2. A2, challenges posed by COVID-19 to the in-person parliamentary sittings. And I'm very sorry, Madame Normandy, and I know that in translation, it might not be completely accurate. This section's a little bit longer, so I'll give you more time. Is everyone okay with this section? If you can indicate as you get through it. Thank you, Mr. Duncan, Mr. Tucker, Mr. Broussard.
Yeah,
yes?
sorry, Madam Chair. Just with respect to the testimony of Dr. Raymond and the speaker and Mr. Robert, I know because I asked the question whether they were satisfied as to whether, in fact, the protocols, the Health Canada protocols, public health agency protocols and the measures that were being taken with respect to the in-person parliamentary sittings had been followed. And I recall in Ms. Raymond's testimony that she said to her knowledge it had, and that the speaker and Mr. Robert had also said that that they had been satisfied with the way that was working. But I don't see that reflected in this particular paragraph. And I think it's important because that it is, because we had the chief epidemiologist for the public health agency and one senior officer and the Speaker of the House indicate that. So I think it's an important part of this particular part of the report. And I think, the fact that it shows that we have been following the proper protocols. So I think there has to be...
Do you think that might fit better in section 3, A3, where we get into the protocols that are being taken?
I don't, Madam Chair, because section 2 talks about the challenges posed by COVID-19 to in-person parliamentary sittings. As much as there have been challenges, because it refers specifically to maintaining a physical distance of 2 meters, limiting the size of indoor and outdoor gathering, it specifically to those parameters, but this section speaks to in-person parliamentary sittings. So I think it's more appropriate in this section, but I think it should be added as part of the report to indicate that the measures that have been taken place so far, that have been happening so far, have actually not posed a challenge to the in-person parliamentary sittings.
But we only get into the measures in the next paragraph.
Okay.
To me, I don't know, maybe okay. I'm not understanding following, because we do talk about the measures and maybe we should put it in there. I don't know, but that will be up to the committee. It just seems, I'm just speaking from a completely topical standpoint, that it just seems to fit there.
Yeah, and where it goes, I guess, is to be determined. I just think it's important and relevant information that was given by those 3 witnesses, and I think it has to be inserted. So if it goes into section 3, at least it's an acknowledgement that what we've been doing up to this point has been following the guidelines based on the testimony. So if you think that it should go in section 3, then I would agree with that. I just think it's important that this information be put in. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Point taken. Is everyone okay with inserting into section 3? We go into section 3 about the measures that, sorry, hold on. Who's responsible for protecting the plans? So all the different measures that have been taken. And I guess you want the language to be that this, or you want a quote from Mr. Robert having said what he stated?
Well, I think that we can leave it to Andre to come up with something. The principle of what I'm looking for is that 3 witnesses have acknowledged that the measures in the smaller in-person settings of Parliament have been to the public health standard and guidelines that have been set out. At least that was their observation when I asked that very pointed question to all 3 of them. Andre? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Broussard. And Andre, would you agree that it fits better into section 3?
Wherever the committee would like the information to go, but I've got the idea, I've got the language. Thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I have a comment as well.
Sorry, Mr. Turnbull, yes.
Yeah, so in the first paragraph of this section, the last sentence, so it would be line 21, 22 on my version on page 3. I find the wording of the sentence a bit awkward towards the end, where it says, further, the virus has a long incubation period of 1 to 14 days, during which mild to asymptomatic transmission may occur. I'm not sure what mild transmission is, but it doesn't seem to be accurate. I think Dr. Duncan might have a better suggestion, but I think it's asymptomatic, pre-symptomatic, and maybe even post-symptomatic transmission, which is the evidence. I've been keeping up with this as best possible, but that evidence is showing that, and that is in fact what I remember Ms. Raymond saying.
Okay. Okay, so that is under section 2, you were said, Mr. Turnbull?
Yes, it's section 2, challenges posed by COVID-19 to in-person parliamentary sittings.
Sorry, just because I don't have the printout of the line, and it's hard for me to simultaneously view it on my screen. At the bottom, it does say further, some provinces have imposed mandatory, but that's not what you're speaking of.
No, sorry, it's the first paragraph of that section.
Further, the virus has
line.
a long incubation period of 1 to 14 days during which mild to asymptomatic transmission can occur.
Yeah, mild transmission is not accurate. I think it is referring to mild symptoms, I think is what was meant.
So people that may exhibit mild or no symptoms, I guess that's what you're absolutely correct that it needs to just be reworded. I think we all know the intention of what is trying to be stated.
And my preference, Madam Chair, would be that it says pre, post, and asymptomatic. I mean, I think asymptomatic transmission includes pre and post. So before the symptoms arise, and even after you've exhibited the symptoms, you can still transmit. Right?
Yes. So you want to say that there's an incubation period of 1 to 14 days in which somebody with mild symptoms or somebody who's asymptomatic can transmit the virus, but also post having the virus, they can. Is that what you're trying to also say? We're going to have to dig out the evidence of what was stated in order to include that part, I think. Andre, do you want to make a comment to that?
I think I have the gist of what Mr. Turnbull is looking for, and I certainly do have his language captured as well. I'll look into it, and if anyone has language that they can think of between now and the end of the meeting, but I've got enough to go on, I think.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Ryan. Okay, so it looks like everyone is good for, we've spent a lot of time on section 2. I think we were on section 3 though. We're going backwards a little bit. So we were on section 3, health and safety, workplace protocols put in place at House of Commons in response to COVID-19 outbreak. And in that section, I think we're going to include Mr. Broussard's comments as well, suggestion. Is everyone okay with that paragraph or that section? This is section 3.
I have a couple of quick comments just on that. Just wondering if 2 parts, which I think is important, just some other measures that were done to add into that list, just to make sure that as the situation evolves. I know the chairs have been removed from the opposition lobbies, and that's really helps physical distancing and social distancing. So I think it'd be good to acknowledge that. And then open door. I was there yesterday, so I would kind of see it firsthand. But the open doors that were there, so we weren't touching door handles all the time. And one thing I thought really worked well was the one way in, another way out, just for the cross part. So just a point of those items for Andre, and then specifically just showing how it's continuing. Everybody's coming up with these ideas of ways to do it. The other quick comment, if we could allude to in there, is that House administration is looking at ways of further protecting our interpreters, if that's in the booths or extra stuff. I just think that's one that's still kind of outstanding for them, but I think it will be important to address that that's in progress to make sure we're acknowledging the struggles that they've got and how we can help them. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Duncan. I think those are excellent points, and the analyst has noted all of those. You're absolutely right. I think we should put in all the measures that we are taking so that people reading our report in the public or private sector can probably get ideas from the things that we are doing at the House of Commons. Thanks for pointing that out. So we are moving on then now to section B, B1.
Norman Din had her hand up.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Je me demandais s'il est possible.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the beginning of the paragraph, we talk about 1,000 workers on the Hill. Do we have up-to-date numbers at present? What is the total? Because further down, and I'm jumping ahead a bit, but in the first paragraph of section B, we say that you need twice as many employees for a virtual session as opposed to a regular session. So my impression is that there's something that's unclear here. Do we have precise numbers? How many people are physically present on the Hill now?
And it says that we have about over 1,000 on when a regular session is on. And Andre, where is the section where we're noting how many people we have now?
Madam Chair, I think that Madame Normandin's point is that later there's another statistic, but as for her question about how many people are on the staff members are on their Hill currently, I stand to be corrected, but I believe it's 55. So I could add that to the report.
Would you like that added to the report? Okay. Yes. So the current numbers, but that will be later on, added in later on into the report in that section, right? Or you're going to add it right into this section, Andre? Yeah. Okay. So what we have now and what we used to have, sure. All right. So now we are on to
Madam Chair.
Mr. Duncan and Ms. Blaney. Yes. Mr. Duncan, do you have your hand up from before? Okay. Ms. Blaney.
Thank you so much. I think the one part that I would like clarity, because it does say that during the virtual part, there's double the numbers. I just want to make it really clear that when we're in the house on, for example, on the Wednesdays in person, how many, and then the virtual days, how many, and if those people are all in the house or in Parliament, or if they're in different places. There's just a little bit of fuzziness for me there.
Okay, so let's pass this section, and then can you clarify what you would like added when we get to the virtual part? Oh, so we're on the legal consideration section. Parliamentary privilege, legal considerations, parliamentary privilege. It's B1. I'll give everybody a minute to get through, a couple of minutes to get through this. Garrettson, you're already through it? Is that what the thumbs up was for?
I read it earlier. It's the definition of it. Yeah, I'm good. Thanks.
Oh, okay. Mr. Algabra? Yep. Mr. Tucker? Okay, Ms. Blaney, thank you. Dr. Duncan? Yep, okay, you already put it up. Sorry, I missed them sometimes. Trying to skim again and like refresh my memory so that I know exactly what you're talking about. Okay, so we've moved on from that section. The second section is parliamentary privilege and the courts. So on that section, any comments on this section? Okay, it seems like I've seen some thumbs up from some people. I'm sorry, I may have missed. I think from the Liberals, I have mostly thumbs up got from the block. Ms. Blaney, Mr. Broussard. Okay, perfect. Tucker, yes, got you. Yes,
Madam,
Mr. Broussard.
Just a question. I'm just being mindful of the time here. We've got a hard stop at 2 o'clock, correct? Because I have to leave Ottawa at that time. So.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
We're doing quite well right now. So we're good to move on to section 3. Okay. I mean, we have another meeting in which we have time to go through some of this, but it would be good to get through at least the ideas of this in this report at this point, so that we're at a stage where when our recommendations go in, we can have enough time left for to discuss those in the next meeting. So that would be ideal, I think. Okay, so quorum in the House of Commons, section 3.
I have a suggestion here.
Yes, Mr. Turnbull?
I noticed that the living tree interpretation of the Constitution was mentioned later on in the report, and that I think the intention of this clause being interpreted within a modern context was highlighted, which I remember was pretty key in that testimony by Mr. Dufresne. I wonder if we can also reference it here in this section, which I think is extremely relevant. In any reader's mind, they may not make the connection if they're reading that section later on. I think it would be good to have it here as well.
Andre?
If I may, I know exactly what Mr. Turnbull is referring to. It appears later because that's the interpretation of quorum as opposed to just the rule of quorum itself, which is very straightforward. It was more how quorum would be looked at by the courts, which was Mr. Dufresne's interpretation, whereas this section is just meant to say what is quorum. But I'm more than happy to add that there if that's what the committee would like.
Madame Normandine?
Un peu dans le même sens.
In the same vein, I remember I put a question with regard to section 49, if the quorum refers to the MPs present in the chamber, and there was an interesting discussion about this. Mr. Pelletier had responded, and others also mentioned that it was rather a community of spirit, and I don't know if that shouldn't be inserted here, the idea of the physical presence.
To that, and
I could certainly add it there. Yes, definitely. I don't. Unfortunately, I did not include it elsewhere in the report, so that would be a place it could go.
Okay. All right. Okay. Moving on to the next section: language rights in Parliament. Yes.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, but did we come to a conclusion on the quorum in the House?
What Mr. Turnbull's point was? Is that what you're? Yeah.
Right, because I thought Andre made a pretty compelling argument as to what the difference was. So I just don't know whether we've.
I was really leaving the ball in your court on that one, and I heard no response from anybody on it. And Andre obviously is going to do whatever the committee wishes, and so he did give an explanation as to that was an interpretation that of the courts. That was referenced later. So I guess I could clarify. So Ryan, you would like that to be put into this paragraph?
Yeah, and I definitely agreed with Madame Normandine's point as well, and I think that would be also a welcome addition. The community of spirit and the living tree interpretation of the Constitution Act, I think, is really important for how we interpret quorum.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. So language rights in Parliament. Madam Normandin, do you have a comment on this one? Okay.
I do, Madam Chair. The first one is in relation to the footnote in the bottom, footnote 20. Just when I read the first two paragraphs, it seems to me that that footnote would be better placed after the first paragraph rather than the second one. I don't know if Andre would agree with me on that or what the rationale was. Yeah. Just that paragraph 1 refers to the Constitution Act, and yet the second paragraph refers to the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. So there is, I guess the thumbs up means that he would be in agreement?
Yes,
okay.
He's in agreement.
Okay,
thanks for pointing that out. Even for 7 o'clock in the morning, the footnotes I definitely hadn't seen in depth.
It was well before 7. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, it looks like everyone's okay with this section. I saw a lot of thumbs up. Okay, Mr. Tucker, thank you. Mr. Richards, did you already? Okay, thank you, Ms. Duncan. All right, looks like everyone's good. So next section is Canada's seat of Parliament. Section 5, Canada's seat in Parliament. B5.
Madam Chair?
Mr. Broussard. Yes.
Bit of a history buff here. The reference in line 28 to the Victoria building. In fact, when the fire happened, it was the Victoria Memorial Museum that the Parliament ended up going to. The Victoria building is on Wellington Street.
Right.
So just
that's a great catch. Andre, you got that right?
I would only say that I looked it up and darn it, I got it wrong.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I definitely think reading some of these sections about the Constitution, about the history of Parliament, always makes you realize what a special place it is that we work in and what a privilege it is to be a member of Parliament.
Yeah, and I wouldn't want senators to be upset with the report when they read it, with the reference to the Victoria building and the confusion that would create. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, section C. Procedural considerations of modifying sittings of the House of Commons in response to COVID-19. Madame Normandin.
Oui, sur le.
Yes, on the last point, I was wondering if this comment should be included there, but I think it was Dr. Raymond who said that it would be difficult to move the seat of Parliament right now because health conditions might not be respected in another place. I don't know if it would be appropriate to put it there, but I don't remember seeing it elsewhere.
I think we move on to just looking at procedural, technological, I'm just trying to refresh my memory here again, considerations, but not the physical.
Madame Chair, it's
Andre.
I would just add that I will certainly add Madame Normandin's point here, but also that what she is asking about does appear later on in the report where Dr. Raymond speaks about an audit. No, is that not true? An audit to look beginning to end. If you're going to change locations, you have to consider everything, not just the building. It does appear later on in the report, but I will certainly put it here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the point. Okay, is everyone good with this section? I see some nodding, some thumbs up. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Mr. Richards. Mr. Algabra? Okay. Mr. Broussard? Okay. All right, D, technological and practical considerations. Oh, no, sorry. Oh, yes, we did do the procedural. No, we didn't. Sorry, I'm just jumping ahead of myself. Okay, so procedural considerations. Boy, I gave a lot of time for that little section before. In my head, I was going through the next section already. Okay, so procedural considerations. I'm guessing that maybe a lot of you had time already to head into review that section again. This is C, procedural considerations. Everyone okay with this section? Yes, Mr. Turnbull, you're good. Mr. Duncan, thank you. Mr. Richards, thank you. Everyone seems to be good. Mr. Algabra? Okay, so D, now we're into the technical and practical considerations.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Broussard.
So as we get down to line 33, 34, and 35, I recall Mr. Patrice being asked when it says, for example, the number of support staff for virtual meetings was double that required for in-person meetings. And Andre, correct me if I'm wrong, but did we not hear that the number was roughly the same to support both a virtual and an in-house sitting? The number was roughly around 55 or so. So I think that needs to be corrected to reflect the accuracy of the information that we received, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I think this has kind of been touched upon before as well by Madam Normandine's comments. Andre, can you clarify?
I could see two approaches to fixing this. One would be to simply delete, for example, or the second would be to add the additional information Mr. Broussard is suggesting.
I'll also jump in here and make a quick suggestion.
Absolutely.
I would prefer if this made reference to a point in time, because as we know, with the adoption of any new platform technology or procedural changes, there's going to be changes over time. You know, staffing may increase at the beginning, but adoption of that new technology over time may decrease the number of people that are required in the future. So it may actually, in fact, change. I'd just like to reference the point in time, if possible.
And Madam Chair, this also goes back to my earlier comment about the clarity of how many staff are in at those two different frameworks. I think that's important, and I appreciate what Mr. Turnbull said as well. It's about identifying that period of time as well.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Ms. Blaney. This is the concern you were raising before. So it seems like we have more suggestions to further clarify and add more information, Andre?
I think I have it, and I could draft something up and see what the committee thinks about it at the next meeting.
Okay. Thank you. All right, other than that, we're moving on with section E then, modified procedures at national legislatures in response to COVID-19. Scotland, we'll start with Scotland, an overview.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yeah, sorry. Oh, sorry, Blaine.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm not. I don't know that I have anything specific that I want to talk about in terms of what's there. It's for me a bit more about what maybe isn't there. And I know that when I asked our clerk earlier about some of the other witnesses that some declined or couldn't be invited for various reasons. So we didn't have a chance to hear from some of the others like Australia, New Zealand, the United States, which are often amongst the comparisons we use when we look at our systems. And even though we weren't able to hear from them during the testimony, it doesn't mean we shouldn't try to gather advice or information about what they're doing to inform what we're doing. And so I think it would be good if we were to ask our analyst to add some sort of a summary of what's happening in those 3 jurisdictions, because that would be good information for our report. And then I think also, I know that he is already working on the provincial stuff, but I think we should maybe reserve a spot for it and some summary of it once we've had a chance to see it. So maybe even at this point, we could even instruct that some language be drafted for the report itself, based on the stuff that Andre's pulling together for us on the provincial. So it's, again, just to point out some things we should probably be adding in this area somewhere.
I don't know whether we would really have enough time at this point, we don't have enough time to get advice, but I do take your point that we could add in from Andre's research as to what these jurisdictions are doing.
I wasn't asking for any advice.
Okay.
I was just simply indicating that we should be adding in what you're suggesting, which is that here's what is happening in other jurisdictions, and those are some of the more comparable ones. And same thing goes for the provinces. I mean, obviously that would be a no-brainer that we might want to look at what some of the provinces are doing as well. So I'm just suggesting that maybe we draft something up that could summarize all of that information.
Okay, Andre.
The briefing note that Mr. Richard had asked for about the provinces is with translation. It's due back today and tomorrow at the very latest, so I can drop that in. That's no problem. Australia, New Zealand, and the United States appeared in a briefing note that was circulated to the committee about 2 weeks ago. Time might not permit that much updating on what they're doing, so there is a bit of a risk that it might be 1 or 2 weeks out of date. But if the committee is comfortable with that, I could drop it in. It's already translated. The translation bureau wouldn't be upset with me.
I think even our health information and everything, with the way things are moving so fast in this pandemic, by the time we present this report, there's probably going to be more than just that area that will be a little bit out of date. So I think it is what it is when it comes to that. But does anybody, I don't see any problems with including those jurisdictions then. Mr. Turnbull?
I was just going to say I'm really supportive of that. I thought that briefing was really good, and looking at those other jurisdictions is certainly, I think, helpful, and they seemed quite progressive as well.
Okay, and the hands up, I think they're from prior, Ms. Blaney and Mr. Richards, if you have your hands up. So I was just asking if you could put your hand down in the participants column. Just throws me off. Mr. Broussard, you have a point?
Yeah, sorry. And as I'm scanning, I'm scanning the page here because we're still on page 9. I think we need to go back, Andre, Madam Chair, to Andre. Line 3, internet connectivity and speed varied throughout the country. I think that should say varies throughout the country, just so that it's more accurately reflected in the report. And the other,
you're correct.
Okay, the other one that I would point out as well is that in the testimony, going down to line 32, where it says on April 1st, 2020, Parliament met with a reduced quorum of 129 total members, 79 attended in person. I think we need to look at replacing 79 to no more than 79, because if I recall, the reference to 79 was to how many chairs were kept in the chamber to permit adequate physical distancing. So I just think that it just needs to be reflected a little more accurately as to what we heard as testimony, and I'll leave that to Andre to look at. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Broussard. Okay. All right. So we are on to Scotland, and that suggestion was made regarding the section that's referring to Scotland. Is everyone? So we've moved on. Everyone is okay with the.
Madam Chair, can I just clarify that those additions would be in a separate section? Is that right? Not in the Scotland section, obviously.
Andre?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My thought would be to add the countries in alphabetical order, and then the provinces in their own section, but also alphabetically.
Okay. Madam Normandy?
L'ordre alphabétique.
Alphabetical order won't be the same in the other language, however.
Correct. What do we do about that, Andre? What do you usually do?
This is a very difficult question. I suppose would it matter committee if the orders were the same in both? I guess it would throw things off if the orders weren't the same in both languages. Let me mull this problem over, please.
Madam Chair, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry, thank you. I think ideally, yeah, we should try to have it all in the same section, regardless of whether you're looking at it in the French version or the English version. I don't know, but I leave that up to you, Andre. Really, it's about how you can logically put it together.
Now, just thinking perhaps some sort of geographical east to west arrangement.
Order of confederation for provinces.
That could be it. Okay, so everyone is okay with the Scotland section? The first part of it. Okay, section B, changes to standing orders. Okay. This is still in the Scotland section. I'm seeing a lot of thumbs up already to the changes in standing orders. Yes, Madam Normandy?
Oui, je sais pas si c'est seulement dans la version.
I don't know if it's just in the French version, but when it comes to changes to standing orders, there's an electronic voting system that's been replaced. The voting system has been replaced by a electronic voting system.
Je vais corriger ça.
It's in.
I'll correct that.
Yeah, it was in both versions. Future plans, section C. If you can give me the thumbs up for that and the section D, pandemic response plan, if you can just take a look at both together.
Just a quick comment. If I can,
yes, of course, Mr. Duncan.
Just under future plans, because of the timelines, if I recall, Scotland, in particular with the UK, I'll mention it again, they're reviewing their decisions or their renewal, I believe, next week. It's getting really tight for timeline on the report, but I follow with interest, for example, in Scotland, about the looking to expand the number of virtual committee meetings being held. If Andre is monitoring that at all, and there is something in the next few days, even for my own interest, I'd be interested to see what they do or what standing orders they change or those types of things. So not sure if there's going to be any updates before then, but maybe just keep an eye on all those to get the latest ones.
Thank you for that point. Yes, Christine?
Oui, juste pour revenir sur ce que j'ai dit.
Yes, to come back to what I said. Yes, I think it was correct what I saw in the report. They replaced the voting system by a voting system. I read it too quickly.
Thank you. Okay. All right, so we're good with section C and D, future plans and the pandemic response plan. Mr. Broussard? Did you have a point? No? Okay, looks like we're good. We can move on to the United Kingdom then. Okay, everyone's good with the intro. Hybrid House of Commons, section B.
Just to note, if again, I just onto that point specifically, maybe adding a line about how it, the length of period that they had, the original, I believe it's May 12th or something next week, that they're going to review and or extend or modify. And then specifically on page 13, the last sentence 1 and 2 of that, I believe the day we met, they were testing as we speak on the remote voting. So there may be some more information from Mr. Hamlin on their findings of that, which would be of great value if that could be added.
Okay. You seem to take just as much interest as Mr. Reid used to take with our other parliamentary cousins.
I don't want to give away how big of a nerd I am, but I think in our first few meetings, I'm guilty. I'm done.
I'll tell you how big of a nerd he is.
Are you calling Mr. Reid a nerd? I don't know.
Yes, I am.
Madam Chair, are we still on hybrid House of Commons? That section?
The hybrid?
Are we still on hybrid?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Are you okay with it?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Everyone good to move on to the second part of that section, Wales? Okay, looks like everyone's nodding their heads. Yep. Any issues with the overview for Wales?
I beat him. I thought Mr. Duncan was going to jump in here.
No, he didn't. You beat him.
Oh, okay, good. Just I'll note as well, Madam Chair, that on the I think there needs to be a footnote acknowledging that the National Assembly of Wales was renamed effective May 6th to the Welsh Parliament. So that
effective May 6th.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So gotcha, Eric.
I'm embarrassed. I'm so sorry. I've let the team down.
Andre, you got that? Welsh Parliament? Yep. Okay. Okay, so we're good with the overview. Changes to standing orders for Wales? Okay, I'm getting some thumbs up for that section. Can you include challenges in there as well, since it's so short? Changes to standing orders, and then the challenges section, which is just a sentence or two sentences. Everyone's good with that? Okay. Okay, so seeing as it's 1:59, everyone okay with the challenges section? So the whole whales section is good to go? Okay, I think this might be a good stopping point then. I was thinking of carrying on. The eager part of me wanted to carry on, but I think it's actually makes sense to create the breaking point here. So we'll carry on from here in our next meeting. I don't anticipate this portion of it to take that much longer, but I do want to remind everybody that we would like to have the recommendations in for tomorrow. Now that you can see the whole report, it may be even easier as you were thinking about recommendations this week. If you can have those ready for tomorrow and submit those to us, we can see where they fit in which section, and then we can have discussion on that in the next meeting, so that we can have all that well prepared for the next meeting for you. Yes, yes, Christine.
Juste une question pour savoir.
Just a question about timelines. If we want a supplementary report, we thought maybe about adding some for the Francophone section regarding translation. And how do we organize the translation of those types of reports?
C'est Justin Le Greffier.
This is Justin the clerk. For dissenting opinions or supplementary reports, in order to be able to table it with the clerk by the 15th, I'll find out, but it seems that we would need those opinions by May 13th, next Wednesday at 5 p.m. There's some terms and conditions regarding the production of those opinions. It's the responsibility of each MP to provide them in both official languages, and so we will leave it to you to have them translated. The maximum length is 10 pages or cannot go beyond the length of the report. Clearly, this report is longer than 10 pages, therefore the limit would be 10 pages. 5 p.m. Wednesday of next week.
Okay, so everyone has that. That's the 13th on Wednesday by 5 p.m. for dissenting opinions or supplementary opinions. And if there are supplementary opinions, you never know. The rest of the committee may want them in the main report. So I'd also advise maybe speaking to other members from other parties, members that I know everyone's got a good working relationship. And so if you can speak to each other offline as well, I would highly recommend that, because the more, the more we have in a report that's consensus, I think the better. But of course, everyone is free to have their supplementary or dissenting opinions. Okay, and recommendations, if they can be in for tomorrow, please just email them. Any other comments?
Madam Chair, yeah.
Yes, Mr. Richards?
Just in regards to, by the end of the day tomorrow, we're suggesting?
I think that will be fine.
Okay. And then with regards to the
Andre, is that okay? Justin, Andre, before end of day tomorrow is good? Okay.
And with regards to the dissenting report, it has to be presented the 15th, correct?
Mr. Richards, it's Justin the clerk talking again. The report itself needs to, the full report, including any supplementary or dissenting opinions, has to be deposited with the office of the clerk by May 15th. So therefore, for production time that would be required, we would need dissenting opinions or supplementary opinions no later than 5 p.m. on May 13th, which is the Wednesday 2 days before.
Okay. I would assume that like a lot of that's cut and paste. Like I don't imagine that being a huge problem, but if it ends up being like that, we had to request at like noon or something on the 14th, could that still be accommodated? If I mean, I don't even know if we'll have a dissenting and how long it would be or any of that, but I don't expect it being an issue with what you're asking for, but But I would maybe like to ask maybe noon on the 14th if it was absolutely necessary. We would obviously do everything we could to have it before that. But
I've talked to the parliamentary publications team, and they've indicated to me that they would need a certain amount of time. And the suggestion that they had in terms of the deadline that they would need those from would be about end of day on the 13th. I can definitely go back and see if there is some leeway, but I think perhaps as a good working rule, maybe if we could keep the deadline as the 13th of May at 5 p.m., which would be consistent with the advice, the technical advice I got back from the publishing team.
Okay, no, if you could go back and just double check that, I'm okay. I'm comfortable that it should be okay. I just, I know sometimes it does take some time, and I wanted to make sure we leave the maximum amount of time in case it was needed. So maybe if you could go back and check, but we would obviously do everything we could to make sure it's ready by the end of the day on the 13th if one's required.
Yes, I can endeavor to do that.
Okay, so as it stands right now, Wednesday by end of business day, 5 p.m., we would need the dissenting and supplementary opinions, and Justin will ask. In terms of the recommendations, don't forget tomorrow. So please be ready at our next meeting on May the 12th. May the 12th is when we will go through the rest of the report and adopt the report, the main section of the report, and then of course you'll add the dissenting 10-page, no more than 10-page dissenting and supplementary opinions. Thank you. Thanks for all your input and feedback. I think we're going to have a great report by the end of this. Bye.